Welcome to your first homework video. So for this class, a lot of times when we're learning new technology, the best way to do it is by doing it hands-on. And sometimes it's really hard to follow along with the teacher. If the teacher's moving too fast or too slow. So what I like to do is I like to record the video ahead of time, have you watch it at home, and then when you come into class, you can work on assignments, and if you have any questions for me, little details, that's when you can ask. So you're going to be watching this for homework, and then tomorrow you're going to be coming in and actually doing this in class with your team. So for the start of this class, we're getting right into 3D printing. So you are going to be 3D printing an object in class tomorrow, and that object is going to be a little name card holder. So you're going to put your name on an index card, and then this little index card holder will hold it up so that I can read it and get all your names down in these first couple weeks. Okay? So how do we do this? Well, I've already created the 3D object for you. It's on the desktop. You're going to have that on your desktop tomorrow. But what you will need to do is you will need to open it in what's called the slicing software. We're going to get into more details with this. Obviously, you're going to be learning it as the year goes on. But what slicing software does is it takes our 3D object and it cuts it into little layers that the 3D printer can understand. And the 3D printer will read those directions and lay down the plastic in those correct layers to make the object. Okay, so we're going to go through just some basics of the slicing software. You need to make sure that you're taking notes on this so that you have this for when you're doing it yourself in class tomorrow. And then you're actually going to be doing this with your team in class tomorrow. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that you'll need to do is you need to open the 3D object in Flashforge, which is our slicing software. So to do that, all you have to do is just double click on the object, and by default it'll open in this Flashprint software, Okay, so when we're in here, we can see that it's, you can see the object here. We're looking down at it at an angle. But if we want to move around and be able to look at it at different angles, we actually use our mouse. So you have to click and hold. If you click and hold the right side, so this is like usually the weird button, not the button that you usually click, but if you click and hold the right click and you move your mouse around, you'll see you'll be able to move and look at the object from different angles. Okay, so that is pressing and holding the right click to do that. Okay, now if we want to jump to a specific view, that's what actually the first button up here is. So this first button right here, view, if we click there, we can go right to the top, or if we want to maybe go view it from the front side, or the bottom, or the back. Okay, but if we want to move around on our own, it's a right click and then move. If you left click, it'll just move side to side. Right click will give you all the different angles. Okay, but you have to hold as you're doing. Alright, so that is how you view your object in this 3D software, this slicing software. Let's talk about what this next tool does. This next tool is to move. And so if you have this button clicked, you can move it in the X and Y direction by changing the X and Y coordinates. And the Z will take it up off of the platform. You really don't want that. So if you do have a floating object, that's not something that we'll be able to print. So if you put on platform, your Z should be at 0 there. Okay? But another thing you can do is you can just click on the object and move it around, and it'll automatically adjust the values over here. So if you just click and drag with a left click, click and hold and drag, it'll move that around. So that's how to move in the slicing software. Okay, let's talk about the next tool. The next tool is the rotate tool. So if we wanted to maybe rotate this object on its side to print, or maybe rotate it upside down, all we have to do is just look for the axis that we want to rotate by. So if we want to rotate on its side so it's flat, we would rotate this green axis, which looks like the y-axis. And if we want to rotate it just on its side, it would be 90 degrees. So if you click the button once, that'll move it on its side. If we click it twice, it'll move it so it's completely upside down. We wouldn't want to print like this. We'll talk about this in future videos, but this is an overhang right here. A 3D printer prints by laying plastic down layer by layer. So if there's not a layer below right here to print on, this plastic will just droop down and it won't make our object. So we definitely would not want to print it like this. So we'll rotate it another 90 and then one more 90 to get it back to where we had it before. Okay, so that is the rotation tool. Let's go ahead and move on to the scale tool. The scale tool is exactly what it sounds like. You're scaling it up and you're scaling it down. So if you wanted to make it bigger, we have this uniform scaling, so that means that It's going to increase our size in all directions. We almost always want that checked. There's a very, very rare instance where you would maybe want it to be not uniform, but for the most part, if you're going to be scaling, you want it to be uniform. So if we do 200%, that would just double the size. You can see that we did that. And if we go back to our 100%, now we're back to our normal size. We could go 50%, that would cut it in half. And obviously you can do anywhere in between. So that's how you scale an object up or down. It's very rare that you're actually going to use that. Most of the time you'll just do that in the modeling software itself. So probably won't be using the scale tool too much. This is another tool that you probably won't be using very much. What this does is actually cuts your model in half, or it cuts it at a certain place. So we can move this to wherever we want, and then once we've done that, all we do is hit Start Cut, and it cuts it into 2 parts. Okay. So again, not a tool that you're probably going to be using very often, but you know, if you need it, that's there. So that's the cut tool. You can also undo anything if you just do Edit, Undo, or Control Z. Control Z is going to be your best friend in this class. Okay, now let's get into some of the tools you might actually use. Like, you will be using this one tomorrow. So if we want to actually duplicate this, so if we want to make a copy for everybody at our table, we can do that really easily by just using the duplicate button. And you just choose how many you want. So if we want 3 duplicates, so we have a total of 4, we just choose that. And now, voila, now we have 4 copies of this. Okay? Oh, I just did that again. I do not want 3 more copies, so I'm going to actually undo that, or Control Z to undo that. But now we have our duplicate, so you will have to do that tomorrow in class to make sure that everybody at your table has one of these name tags. Okay, so how do we know that this is positioned and laid out in the best way for the printer to print it the fastest? Well, there's an easy way to do that. I use this for almost every single one of my prints. It's called the Auto Layout tool. So all you have to do is click Auto Layout. 2 millimeters is more than enough space in between our different models. So if you just click OK, that will give that, it'll put your objects in the optimal position for the printer. So this will print the best way, it'll print the fastest, the cleanest that the slicing software knows how to do. So that's a really good tool. Auto Layout, don't even have to think about it. Boom, it's there. Okay, now supports is something in the wiping tower. We'll get into these. These are a little bit more advanced, so we're not going to talk about these right now. But know that those are 2 other tools that we're going to get to. And then down here, multi-machine control, you're never going to use that. And then this connect machine is actually something that we're about to do, but we're going to do it after we slice. So we've got our objects, and this is what you guys are going to have tomorrow. We just have to talk about a few more things about how we actually connect to the printer and how we turn these objects into the layers. So let's start by turning these objects into the layers before we connect to the printer. To do that, we're going to click on this Start Slicing tool. Now, there's a few things, and we're going to talk about this in more detail as we go. But for this print, just know that we're going to be using this PLA plastic, okay? It is the cheapest type of plastic. It is the most efficient. It's biodegradable. This is like the most common type of plastic that we'll use. So today, we're going to be using that plastic. The only setting that you're really going to need to change today is you're going to need to change the slice profile from the standard to the fast, because we're printing out 4 of these and we need to get this done before the end of class. So you will need to change the slice profile to fast, and then in addition to changing that to fast, we need to go to raft, and we need to turn off this raft. So where it says enable raft, we need to check this and say no. So other than that, those are just the 2 things you need to change. You need to make sure that it's on PLA, that we have fast, that the raft is no, and if you have all of that, then you can hit slice. So this will just take a second down here. And what this is doing is it's cutting these 4 objects into individual layers. So if we go to the slice preview, you can see, yeah, now this is actually showing you what it's going to look like when it comes out 3D printed. And if we click and we move these sliders, this will show you each individual step. So this is showing you layer by layer how these things are going to get built up. And then within each layer, if you want to see how it's going to be laid down, we can look right here. We can see, oh, okay, this is how this layer is going to be built. So it's kind of cool. You can see exactly what the 3D printer is going to do before you 3D print. But at this point, we're pretty much ready to go. So we need to send it to the 3D printer. And this is where we use some of the kind of Wi-Fi technology that you might not think of. There's a way that you can actually send files from one computer to another over the internet without using the internet. So we're actually going to disconnect from the school Wi-Fi, and you're going to do this tomorrow. And you're going to connect to the printer with the number that you have at your table. So I'm going to be using printer number 1. You can see the number right on the printer there. If you click on that and you click connect, you have to give it a little bit of time. But once this is connected, now our computer is going to be connected directly to the 3D printer, and then we'll be able to stream this file over Wi-Fi, and then it'll print automatically. So once this is connected, all we have to do is go here to local save, because we're not actually going to be doing local save. We need to change it to send to printer. Now notice you're going to see that it says there's no internet access, but we do have a direct connection to the printer, so we're good to go. It says that it's connected, but there's no internet access, so we're good. So we go send to printer. We go IP address. This should all be set. Connect machine. And then you're just going to do your name card holder underscore, and then whatever your class name is. So we came up with this class name today in class. You should have that. So whatever your class name is, you'll put that in there, and then click OK. And you'll see that it will send. Now your 3D printer should start. This one is going to take about 17 minutes to print. And so when it's printing in class, you guys will have a little activity to work on. All right, looking forward to getting to printing tomorrow. See you in class.